Hey Dev Team, welcome back to Flutter with Drag, and we're going to continue with our app. And as you can see on the screen at the moment, the agenda is trying to load, but it's failing. It's failing because the server hasn't been started. I haven't started the web server yet, so I don't expect it to work. But I want to solve this problem because what happens in our app if the user doesn't have a network connection? Well, we still want them to be able to access the data. And so what I want to do in this episode is somehow cache the results. So obviously the first time the app is used, they're going to have to somehow have a network connection. And then after that, if they don't have a network connection, it'll still work. Okay, let's look at the code, because before we do that, we need to install a few packages, and I'm going to install a load at the beginning rather than as we go through, just so we can compile once. So I'm going to stop the emulator for now, and we will come back to that later on. So let's look at the code, and the first thing I want to just share with you was a little trick that I've learned this week, and I thought it was really useful. You know, I'm often not complaining, but when you haven't got the consts in the right place, and things are, trying to tell you that you should put them in, and when you make changes, sometimes you have to move a const from the beginning of a list to somewhere else, so on and so forth. Well, if we come up to the settings of our JSON, we'll do that by holding Control Shift and P. This is in Visual Studio Code, and type in settings, and you click on preference open settings.json. Now this isn't per working folder, working directory. This is the settings for the whole of the global settings for Visual Studio Code. If you add these few lines in, editor.code actions on save source fix all true, then what that will do is when you save your file, it will actually fix all the fixable options. So if I hover over here, we can go to quick fix, and I can do this add const modifier there, but it's in lots of places. But with that setting in, if I just hit Control S now, you watch the screen, most of the consts are put in. It hasn't dealt with this one. I don't know why it hasn't dealt with that one. Did it deal with it a second time? It has a second time. But yeah, it'd certainly save a lot of time, if not completely save it. I haven't played with it much. I am still experimenting with it. I'll let you know how it goes. But I'm going to leave it on for now, and we'll see what problems we run into with that. Talking of problems, down here I have 6 problems apparently within the code at the moment. And I'm going to sort these out now. The first one is in const.dart. Somehow there is a Dart UI got there, so I'm just going to take that out. It's not needed. And in main, we've also got an unused import. Take that out. And in our home screen, we have an unused import. Now this one has got a preferred constant constants. Where's that? There. So let's see what happens when I hit save now. It does fix it. Excellent. Okay. And then these other 2 files, or the other 2 issues, are to do with the generated files, conf event g.dart. Well, I can't really do anything about that. So what I'm going to do is make sure that our analyzer excludes the generated files. So to do that, I'm going to come down to our analysis option file. And in the analysis option file, before the linter, I'm going to put analyzer exclude, and then dash, and then the pattern. And we want to exclude any directory and file that ends in g.dart. So if I save that now, hopefully within a second or two, these problems will go away. There they go. Okay. So that solves that for now and tidied it up a little bit. Next, I want to, in our pubspec.yaml, I want to add all the dependencies we're going to need for this episode. So I'm going to do that with Control-Shift-P and pubspec assist add update dependencies. And the ones that I want, first of all, I want connectivity plus. And that's going to be the package that helps us know whether we're connected to a network or not. The next is I'm going to install our cache in a database, and I'm going to use an SQLite database to do that. And we could just install SQLite, but I'm not going to. I'm going to install another package called Drift, which will help us type things and keep everything sort of clean and reusable. So I'm going to go with the Drift package. That requires SQLite _3_flutter libs. It also requires path provider because we need to work out where we're going to save the database in terms of the data directory, and we also need path. Okay, so that's connectivity plus Drift, SQLite 3 Flutter libs, path provider, and path. So assuming I've spelt all those right, let's give that a second. Yeah, we've added those 5 packages. Drift also needs some dev dependencies, so let's come to add update dev dependencies, and for this we need drift _dev, and we also need build runner. Well, we already have build runner, so we can just go with that drift dev. Okay, let's save that, and that should get that file in. And just to get everything compiled quickly, I'm just going to, without doing any code changes, I'm just going to run the app and let it all compile up. Okay, that took a little while, but it loaded up and I've stopped it again. It's all compiled and ready to go. So let's get cracking. And the first thing I want to do, even though I'm not going to use it immediately, well, we could, is I want to create a qubit that basically maintains the state of our network connectivity. So to do that, I'm going to create a new folder in the libs directory called blocks, and I'm going to use that to store a number of different global blocks, things that aren't associated with the page as we go along. And this first one, although I've called this blocks, is going to actually be a qubit. So I'm going to create a new qubit called connectivity. Now that will create a folder, and it will create a folder called qubit and put our connectivity in there. I'm just going to rename that folder because I'm going to have multiple qubits and blocks and things in here. I'm just going to rename that folder connectivity as well, just from an organizational point of view. Okay, let's start with our connectivity state. So we're going to have 3 states that I'm really worried in. First of all, the initial, when we're just kicking off and we haven't quite worked out yet whether we have a network connection or not. I'm just going to copy that twice. We're going to have a connectivity connected, i.e. we have a network connection, and a connectivity disconnected. We've got a double N in there. Okay, and that's all we need for the states. None of these are going to need properties yet. Maybe they will in the future, but no, for now they don't. And so let's come to our connectivity qubit, where we need to monitor our connectivity. So to do that, we're going to use that package that I've just installed called connectivity. So we're going to need access to that. So we're going to do final connectivity, which we'll call connectivity, and we'll set that up in the in our initializer, because we're not going to be ever importing anything else into this. So we'll say that our connectivity equals an instance of our connectivity. And is that imported? Yep, it's imported. Okay. So that gives us access to that. Now, connectivity is going to provide a stream of events when the connectivity status changes. So when we become connected to the internet or disconnected, and so it's a stream we're going to have. So we're going to also need in here a stream subscription, so we can monitor that and close it down. And that's not going to be set up, so it might be null. So we'll put in that question mark there. Now, having done that, we need to make sure we override our close method, because if we have a subscription, then when this is disposed, we need to make sure that it's closed up. So right from the bat, we're going to say, if we've got a subscription, then cancel it. And that will close up our subscription once we're done. Okay, so where do we get the subscription from? Well, we're going to say at the start, we're going to create a function in here, or a method in here, called monitor network, and it's going to be a private monitor network. Okay, so when the state starts, the stream subscription might not give us anything. So when we first start, we need to find out what our current state is, and then monitor for future changes. So we'll say here that connectivity, and it's not going to be null because we know we've set that up, check connectivity. Once it has checked the connectivity, we will get a value, and we're going to do something there, and we're going to emit the result. We'll call it result. Now, emit result doesn't exist, nor does result. I'm just going to rename that to result. But the reason we're having to we don't need that, sorry, I don't know what I'm thinking, we don't need that at all. The reason we're going to emit the result to another function is because we're going to be calling that twice from different places. So let's create our void emit result function, and that is going to take in a connectivity result, because that is what this check connectivity does, is it gives us a future of connectivity result. So we're going to get the result into this function, and we're going to do something with it. For now, I'm going to switch the result. And this is going to complain that we're not dealing with all the cases, so we'll add all the missing case clauses. So you can see that the result will have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, mobile, or none. Okay, well, I'm going to change none instead of into a case. I'm going to change that to the default. And so by default, what we're going to do is emit our connectivity disconnected. Okay, so by default, we're not going to have a, we're going to say we've not got a connectivity. That's going to be true if we're on Bluetooth, so I'm going to delete that one. and I'm also going to delete the Ethernet one because this is a mobile app. They're not likely to be connected via Ethernet. So the only two that we're worried about now is if we've got a Wi-Fi connection or a mobile connection. In which case, for both of those, we want to emit connectivity connected. And we're going to take out the to do there. And if we take out the break there, what we're saying is we're going to switch this result. And if we're on connectivity result, we're going to do that. Or if we're on to mobile, we're going to do that. For anything else, we're going to do this, disconnectivity, connectivity disconnected. Okay, so we'll save that. Now, in the monitor, we also need to monitor the connectivity for changes, and this is where our subscription comes in. So we're going to create a subscription, and the subscription is going to be on the connectivity, and we're going to, this time, instead of calling check connectivity, we're going to call on connectivity changed, and that's going to give us a connectivity result as a stream, and as it says here, it fires whenever the state changes. Okay, so that's that, and we're going to listen for those changes, and again we're going to get a result. Okay, and when we get a result, we're going to do exactly what we've just done above. We're going to emit that result. Okay, so that's why we put emit result twice, because otherwise we'd have to put the switch in two different places. Finally, we need somewhere to monitor, call this, and we're going to do this as soon as this qubit is initialized. We're just going to call it from our constructor. And that's that. We can save that out, and our qubit is now ready for us to monitor the network connection. So where are we going to do that from? Well, this is something I think we want to have in multiple places. So I'm going to do it on the main, and I'm going to do it here as our repository provider. I'm also going to put in here a block provider. So I'm going to come to our material app, and I'm going to wrap with a block provider, and the block provider is going to be our connectivity qubit. Now it's complaining about invalid constant values. I wonder if saving that will fix it. No, it doesn't. Okay, well, we'll just take the const out, and as you see, when I saved it and then put it back in automatically. Okay, so we have our connectivity qubit there. And now from anywhere within the app, we should be able to use that. So where are we going to use that from? Well, just as a test really, I don't really plan on doing this. If we come to our screen's home.dart, where we have a list of on our home screen, so we've got our date row space, the header space, just before the agenda, just for now, I'm going to put in network info, which doesn't exist yet. And I'm going to, in our libs folder, I'm going to create a new folder called widgets. This is going to be for widgets that are used all around the app. And I'm going to create a new file called networkinfo.dart. This is going to be a stateless widget called network info, and we'll import our material. Okay, so what are we going to return here? Well, we're going to need access to that block, so we're going to have a block builder, and the block that we're going to be accessing is our connectivity qubit, and we're going to get a connectivity state out of that. and we also need to import our Flutter block. Okay, so we can say here now, if state is loading, the initial loading screen where we don't know what the state is, so connectivity initial. So if we're in our initial state, what we will say is nothing. We will just return a sized box, and that will be a const. Again, I'm not going to type it, I'm just going to save, and it's put it in for us. Excellent. If state, in fact, if connectivity initial, we could put it here, or state is connectivity connected, because in either case I want a blank state. Else, we can just put an else here then, yeah, and the else is just going to return a const sized box with a child of text, and we'll just put in here no network connection. Yeah, that'll do. And we won't need this return because it'll never get there. So if we're not sure what the state is, i.e. when it's loading, or if it's connected, we're not going to return anything. Otherwise, we'll return the word no network connection. So we'll save that. We'll come to our home and import that widget. And with that all done, I will just launch our app again. Okay, so we're up and running now, and we've got a Wi-Fi connection. I was just looking here, it looks like my icons at the top of my emulator have got all busted, so I'll have to rebuild the emulator. But we can see what's selected is that we're on Wi-Fi, and we're on mobile data, and we have no message. So let's turn off our Wi-Fi, and now we're just on mobile data. And again, no message. And we'll turn off our data. And look, we've now got the message, no network connection. If we turn our data back on, which I think was that one, yeah, mobile data, our message disappears. Turn it off, it's back on. And if we click this one, the Wi-Fi data takes a little bit of a second or two for it to come up, so we'll be able to see the network connection message disappear. There we go, once the network connection has become established. So now we have a way within our whole app of knowing whether we have a network connection or not, and can allow different things. So for example, in our profile page, which won't come up yet because the server's still not running, but in our profile page we do have we're going to have an edit button, but there's no point in editing it if we haven't got a network connection, so we might choose not to show that, or show something else. Okay, next let's get back home here. The next thing I want to do is this caching. So again, I'm going to stop this because there's going to be a bit of code to go through. Well, folks, I'm just in the middle of editing this and realized that if I continued, this video is going to be about 2 hours long. So I'm going to call it here for this part, and the second part of this is already recorded, and I'll bring it out tomorrow. So if you've enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and we will continue with this split bit of the code tomorrow. Take care, folks. See you then. Bye.